One of the most important seasons in West Virginia football history begins in 2025, and now we've got some rhyme and reason to it. We obviously knew who we were going to play, but we didn't know when. Now we do. Let's break that down and see what Richrod's record is going to be in 2025. Stick around.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome back in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am the host here, and this is Locked On West Virginia, where we talk Mountaineer football, baby. It is brought to you by Game Time, of course. We love Game Time. Today's episode, download the app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. There's a lot to break down with this deal. So West Virginia football schedule has been released in its entirety. We knew who the teams were. We didn't know where they slotted, and now we do. And honestly, it's a really tough schedule. It's as tough as any schedule we've had during the Neil Brown era, really. On paper, we don't know how these teams will turn out. We saw TCU go to the national championship game one year and absolutely shit the bed the next. Pardon my language. So I think you look at this and look at it's a tough schedule for Richrod's first year. Absolutely, there's some meat on the bone in the first three games. You'd have to win the first three games. I think Pitt's definitely a beatable team. But let's start with just going through the schedule in its entirety as we break down this. And we'll start, and obviously we're going to talk about Colorado and more, but this is one heck of a game. So, like I said, the opponents were already known in advance. We knew that we had home games against Utah and Colorado, Texas Tech, TCU, and road trips to Arizona State, BYU, Houston, and Kansas, and also UCF. But the dates and order have been filled in. So that's what this is. August 30th is Robert Morris, and here's another thing. I believe, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, when this was announced, Neil Brown was the football coach, the scheduling, right? When we knew who we would play, we didn't know when. That was when Neil Brown was around, not Richrod. And so that, for me, changes a lot, especially when you consider just how – I don't know, bad he was on the road. Let's just put it that way. Like, we got some tough road games here. That's just bluntly. We've got really tough road games on this schedule. We started with Robert Morris. That should be a win. At Ohio could be tricky. That could be tricky. Let's not kid ourselves here. Should be a win. But this is a lot of new players in the first year. Pitt comes to town September 13th. It'll be one of the hottest tickets in town. Both teams should be 2-0, although I don't know Pitt's first two games offhand. Let's see what they are. Let's just have a check, see. Pitt football schedule. All right, for 2025. All right, so they've got, it looks like anyway. Oh, crap. What am I not seeing here? Let's see. What's going on here? Let me look in a different place. That can't be right. That's showing me the basketball schedule, even though I typed in football. Goofy. Google, man. So, all right, here we go. I think this is it right here. Yeah. All right. So they've got Duquesne and Central Michigan before West Virginia. So should be, and then they got Louisville right after us. That's some rivalry games back to back. But Pitt and West Virginia should both be 2-0 in that game. It should be a fun game. And then I love the Richrod versus Narduzzi factor here, because if you saw out in midfield, I felt like Narduzzi kind of roughed Neil Brown up a little bit. Neil Brown's a little more aw shucks. I don't think Neil Brown's not tough by any means. I'm not saying he's soft or anything. Narduzzi is just kind of like, you can tell he's probably like that. He gives you noogies. He's kind of like that bully. And I don't mean that like in the negative sense with the term. Like you got that friend that like he'll punch you in the arm, he'll push you, like different things. Like it's really not malicious like some bullies are, but I think that's the vibe I get from Narduzzi. And kind of how he kind of dominated Neal out of midfield a little bit there. It's not going to happen to Richrod because we all know that piss is nuclear. And at the end of the day, if Pat Narduzzi wants to get too close, he might melt. He just might melt. Nuclear piss from Richrod. Okay, so moving on from Pitt, and oh, by the way, the quarterback matchup in that game could be kind of interesting depending on who's playing, but Holstein, Nico could be good. Nico could be on fire through 2 games. You know, I could see him having 150 yards rushing versus Robert Morris, maybe 80 to 100 versus Ohio, coming in ranked in the top 20 or 30 at quarterback rushing. You got Holstein, who's a pocket guy. Hey, Jamori Robinson coming after Eli Holstein. Let's go, man. Keenan Eck coming after Holstein. Let's go, man. How about the guy from Oxley? Let's go, man. We got guys that can rush the passer this year, and I want to see Holstein get his head drove into the ground legally, and I want to see it live in person, baby. I'm going to be there, and so if you want to meet and greet with moi, you can. It will cost you a handshake, so that should be fun. Then we move on to the meat of the schedule where it gets kind of tough, and I think we're going to need that double bye afterwards, or not the double bye, but I read that wrong. It's BYU, then BYE. That's not a double bye. That's just BYU, then a bye. Anyway, you guys are probably like, what's he talking about? September 20th at Kansas. That's the first really hard game on the schedule. I think personally that what Kansas has done through the portal is really, really good. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I'm going to pick them to finish in the top 4 likely. In the year, because I think the way they ended the year, I think Leopold's too good of a coach. I think he had to adjust without Kolnicki in year 1, and they figured some stuff out along the way. And Grimes can call plays. It's just a little different than what Kolnicki did. So that's going to be fun. But at Kansas, and then you got Utah at home, which is just an incredible coaching matchup. I mean, you got 2 really accomplished guys in Kyle Whittingham and Richrod facing off against each other. But another thing is which Utah team are we going to see? This Utah team could be 4-0 walking in there. I don't know what their schedule. Let's look at Utah Utes football schedule 2025. All right, so I like to see potentially what the records could be walking in. Okay, so they're probably likely not going to be 4-0 walking in. They could be 3-1. They may be 4-0, but you got UCLA, which is a game they should win, but you could lose. It's a Power 5 team. Then you got Cal Poly. That should be a blowout win for them. You got Wyoming, which could be tricky because it's in Laramie, which is a very tricky game. And then you've got Texas Tech. This is another one that they got the number 1 portal class in America. Now, we know Deion did that, but for goodness sakes, man. So, I mean, that's a tough opening 4. I could see them being 3-1, 4-0, though. I mean, if they're back, I don't see Whittingham and them guys being down for another year. So, I think you look at them, they're going to be 3-1 or 4-0 coming in. That should be a fun matchup against a West Virginia team. That should be 3-1 and 4-0. Should be at this point in time. So, that'll be a fun game. I'm going to pick these games in the next segment, by the way. I'm going to pick West Virginia's schedule in the next segment. And we'll see where that takes us. Then you're at BYU, almost unwinnable game. I think we can do it. Obviously, under Neil Brown, that was definitely, you mark that as a loss on the schedule, just the way it is. Don't know why he struggled so much on the road, but he did. Hopefully, Richrod's not the same way. I mean, look, when he was coaching here last time, we didn't have to go 200 miles each game. So it's not like, things are different now with Richrod. Then we go to a bye after the first 6 games, which is dead center of the schedule. And look, if you talk about, and then you start looking in October. So obviously BYU, then the bye, then you're at UCF, which is a toss-up, but I think you should be able to win. You got TCU, who is really revamped, and then it kind of gets dicey again, which is unfortunate, but I like what Tony Caridi put out. He said, thoughts on the schedule. 3 home games between August 30th and September 27th. I see where he's coming from there. That's true. Should be hopefully beneficial. One negative is only one home game in October 25th versus TCU, which is what I was going to mention next. No back-to-back road games in a bye on October 11th. Very much true. And then the season finale, November 29th, is at home when the students are gone. I mean, if we're winning, I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, the students should be able to be there. Not saying that, but stadium should still be full if we're winning. You know, if we've got 8, 9, 10 wins coming in at that point in time, or even 7 probably, I would imagine that stadium should be full. Especially if we're exciting like we have been in the past under Richrod, I have no doubts. But yeah, so that's what I was going to talk about in October. So one thing about October, though, is yes, there's only one sorry, I just got about to have a little brain fart there. Only one home game in October, but there's also a bye in October, so that's kind of tricky. Like you trade that for the bye, right? Like you get one home game in October, but technically there's a bye in October. So I get that, Tony, but I don't think it's as big a deal when you consider that. So anyway, up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, let's continue going through the rest of the schedule. Then I'm going to make some predictions on where I think the West Virginia Mountaineers land in year 1 under Richrod. And then we had a commitment today too. Let's talk about that on Locked On West Virginia. Stick around. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Game Time. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert or comedy show, sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. And let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. Curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a primetime seat. Couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. The seat view feature is a game changer. Before I hit buy, I can exactly see why my seat will look like and where it's at in the venue. It's very reassuring. The best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, you'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time and easy cancellation options. If something comes up, job loss protection, event loss protection, making it one of the more popular and more flexible in the ticketing industry. Ready to make your next event better? Well, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed, and then ask yourself the question of questions, guys. What time is it? It's game time. All right. We are back here, Locked On West Virginia, segment 2. I'm cracking a do. You guys can yell at me if you want to, but I'm excited. Richrod's piss is hot. The schedule's out. Give me a break on the Mountain Dew here. I am cutting back. This is only my second Mountain Dew of the day, and I've been up since 6, so I feel like that's okay. Normally it would be like 4 in by now, so I don't know. I'm taking it seriously, guys. I really am. Back into the schedule a little bit. Let's finish out the schedule, then I'll make some predictions. So I think because I'm just giving you my opening thoughts on each game. We left off at BYU, then the bye, then at UCF, which I think is a tricky game. New coach and Scott Frost, obviously, 2 first-year guys resurrecting old programs, both very successful. UCF claims a national championship, even with Scott Frost, and they were screwed that year. I do agree. I don't know if they were good national championship good based on who won that year, but they certainly have a gripe about it. I'll give them that. They just didn't play in a tough enough conference is the biggest issue. TCU, well, like I said, who knows where they'll be on October 25th. I think a lot of people look at them in one of those teams that could resurrect itself this year. Houston, November 1st is an interesting game. I think, Fritz is a guy that I have a lot of faith in. I think he can resurrect the program, even though he's a little older than people realize. Not like Richrod. And what he did at Tulane, obviously special, and they were really good on defense there. I expect them to be the same. The Colorado game will be the hottest ticket possibly in history for Mountaineer Field. Deion Sanders coming to Morgantown. Will it be the first time he's ever set foot in the state of West Virginia? That's the question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. I'm sure he's been through that. I'm sure he's not had many reasons to stop in West Virginia in his life. So Deion Sanders will be in Morgantown. What a spectacle that will be. Colorado could be, 1 or 2 loss team at that point in time. I do think they're going to be really good. I think there'll be a learning curve because let's just keep it real, man. His boy I think Travis Hunter was great. Don't get me wrong. He covered up a lot, but so did his son Schrdule. Covered up a lot of deficiencies for them. Just call it what it is. There's a lot of deficiencies, I think, that they had in other places but they bought them enough time to build this program in year 3. So we'll see where they're at. Some people think Arizona State could be the toughest game on the schedule. I'll just make this point again. TCU went to the national championship game in year 1 under Sonny Dykes, and then we haven't seen them since. So, and that's been during the portal era. It's during that era. So don't give me that they're unbeatable crap with Arizona State. I don't think that they're great. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to be really good. I'm just saying it's not a guarantee that they will be, So like things happen, man. We got another bye right at the end of the year, which is wild. And then you get Texas Tech, who could be, who knows how good they'll be. They're a true wild card once again. Scary though. I think it's for the end of the year. Could be for many things. It could be for as much as maybe a conference championship. Maybe it could be a top 4 finish in the conference. Maybe it will be, maybe it's bowl eligibility, something like that, or maybe even playoff on the line. I don't know. It could range any of those options and everything in between. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all fits and works. Somebody put Travis Hunter will be a bust in the comments. I have to laugh at that. I 1,000% totally disagree. I think he's as sure of a bet as anybody I've ever seen, especially if he plays defensive back at the next level. He's got everything. So, but I mean, to each their own. I'm one of the only people that thought, Russell Wilson would be a Pro Bowl quarterback 10 years in a row. I actually said that. I have it on Facebook. I took a screenshot because I was so proud of it when he got drafted in the 3rd round. I told people, I said he's a steal. Anyway, I'm getting way off track here. Let's talk about the record now. I think I have to set aside for this my Mountaineer Paul hat and put on just Paul's hat. Okay, so I don't know what to do. I looked over this for a few minutes and I could see it going really well for us. I could see it going really bad for us, and everything in between. It's like, we don't have all the pieces on the roster yet, and so I'm just going to have to predict this like it is now. And if this roster finishes how it is now, we've got 2 pretty big problem areas. I think offensive line is one right now. I still think we need to add a piece or 2 there, personally. Now, guys can come out of the woodworks and play extremely well, and I'll be like, okay, great. But we've got, we brought in some pieces, but I don't know for sure. Like, I know what Xavier Bosley is. I know what he is. I think I know what Livingston is. The guys we brought in, a couple of them I think are good, have a chance to be good. But as I've checked in and looked around, I don't know anymore on some of those guys. So there's a lot to worry about. Let's go to one more break real quick, and then this last segment we'll get into this. Stick around real quick. No read. Be right back. This is Locked On West Virginia. All right, we are back. So other problem areas I would say are, I think, at some point we need a little bit more inside linebacker help, maybe one guy. We certainly do need a one-on-one receiver. Richrod has said that. We have a lot of speedy receivers. I don't know if Jaden Bray could absolutely be that. I think he's got a great shot to possibly be that. As a matter of fact, I would, under this staff, I would bet on him being a lot better. So maybe he's our one-on-one big target. But they may go out and get a guy. I think Genross needs to hit at tight end. We don't really have a tight end. If Genross hits like I think he can, then that's a huge one. The back end obviously is a lot. It's new. It's a lot of new pieces, and I think they can have some big growing pains early. But there is some continuity there, obviously, with some of the Jack State players. I think we need a couple more corners. When you break it down, we've got a lot of secondary pieces, but they're all very specific. So, like one guy was a nickel, one guy's a strong side safety, one guy's a weak side safety, a couple of corners, but like there's no depth really at any of those spots. So like they need more. There's no doubt about it, which is why I think you heard Richrod say we're going to add more. I think we could add 7 to 10 more people, guys. I really do. So I think we need another offensive lineman, like that's for sure a starter, however that works. Like we missed a couple. The Notre Dame and Michigan kids I thought would have been shoe-ins for us if we could have but we didn't get them. And I have to trust the staff on this, but I have worries about this team. I think quarterback is one of those ones where it could be really good or it could be medium. I think for Richrod to get back to where he was, we need a Pat White to emerge. That's what we need. If we're going to be what we were, we got to be what we've been, right? And I don't know that we have that guy on the roster right now. I don't know if Henderson or Nico are, not saying Pat White's caliber, but let's say Rasheed Marshall even. Do we even have a guy that good? I don't know. I think it's still yet to be seen. By the way, I'm not saying we don't here. I'm just saying I need to see it. I got to see it. Show it to me. Let me see it. So this is a year one thing. After year one's over, we'll have a much better idea of what Richrod can do in this conference, in this era. But until then, it's been 17 years. He hasn't been in a Power 5 job in a long time. There are fair concerns. Are there not? Am I being fair? With those concerns in mind, I think we start out 3-0. I still think we're better than Ohio, Pitt, and Robert Morris. Absolutely. The King game at Kansas, I think we'll probably lose our first game there. I'm going to pick us to beat Utah until I see more out of them. Like, coming up to that game, that could be a total different pick for me. But this way too early prediction, I'll say we start out 4-1, and then we get BYU. I think that's a loss on the road at 4-2. Then we get a bye. But you know what? You're 4-2 at the bye. You feel pretty good about that. I think you go 5-2 at UCF. And then maybe let's say you lose one at TCU, you're 5-3. I think you at Houston, you win, that's 6-3. And then you got to figure it out down the stretch. Can you get bowl eligible before Colorado on November 8th? If you can, that alleviates a lot of pressure off of Richrod in year one. Do we all want more than that? Yes. Absolutely, we want more than just bowl eligibility this year. I'm not saying that we don't. But those first 9 are very winnable games all, except for Kansas. I think, that's the one that's like very, very iffy. Utah, based on last year, I think they're in a rebuild, but they certainly could bounce back quickly under Willingham and be a power again, and we'd be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. Houston, I don't think is going to be ready in year 2 yet. So I look at the schedule. TCU is one of the ones that could bounce back too. So could UCF, and under Frost immediately bounce back. Like there, you just have to wait and see. But as this early out, I think we can go 6-3 in the first 9 games, and then look down the stretch at Colorado, Arizona State, and Texas Tech, and say, okay, what do you want, Richrod? Do you want a conference championship game in year 1, or do you want to go to the bowl game and finish in the top 3 or 4 of the league? That's the question, because your 3 hardest games on paper are undoubtedly in November. Just a brutal stretch in November of Colorado, Arizona State, and Texas Tech. The 1, 2, and probably 3 best teams possibly outside of Kansas. You might throw Kansas in there, and obviously BYU. I apologize. BYU's obviously in there. BYU may be the best on the list. But that's why I have us losing that one. But there's a shot here where if this team is like Richrod's team last year, it takes 2 or 3 games to get really rolling. Like they started 0-3. We're going to have a luxury of at least 2 games to get acclimated to the system. And they got, I think he said 60 new guys to filter in last year. So yeah, man. I think, okay. So predicting it, I'm going to say we beat Colorado at home because I'm not going to be there and let Deion come in and just whoop us like that. I'll say we lose to Arizona State, and I'll say let's just say for this one, let's just say we beat Texas Tech. That's 8 wins in year 1, and that would be a very successful season. You could possibly win 9. I think that's, that would be that would make a lot of people happy, right? And then if you can win the bowl game, that's 9. And I think that'd make a lot of people happy. A lot more money would come in and all that. So there's a lot to like about that. And then you can get Richrod. He can reload next year rather than rebuild. So those are my thoughts on it. A lot to love about this schedule, and then just everything it entails that it brings. You got the backyard brawl. You got Deion Sanders. You got Utah. What? Like, that's a really underrated game, too. Utah is going to be in Morgantown. That's never happened. I'm sure if you look at the history books. Probably wrong. That's how it goes, right? But you got West Virginia at BYU. When have you ever said those words? It's just a lot of weirdness, but certainly interesting stuff. You got Deion Sanders in Morgantown. So a lot to love, guys. I love it. Hopefully you do, too. And I'll see you next time. I'm going to try to do a video later. Certainly, we did have a high school recruit come in. Let me make sure nothing else has happened while we've been on here that's anything crazy. But yeah, West Virginia landed a high school recruit. I think his name was Bigelow. I have to go back and look really quick. Also expecting another commit today, I was told. So be watching for that. Let's see. All right. Well, somebody tell me in the comments if you know who that commit was from earlier, because I can't really find his name off the top of my head. I know he's a West Virginia kid. Let's see. West Virginia. Let's try it here. Nope, it's just not telling me right now. And I know his last name was Bigelow. So it might be Trevor Bigelow. Let me just search Bigelow. It'll probably pop up for me. Yeah, that's who it is. Trevor Bigelow. Okay, good. I'm actually following him. 6'4", 265. So obviously big offensive lineman. Fairmont Senior, which is great. We love those guys. Those guys have been good to us. Let's see what Keenan had to say about him really quick. 6'4", 265. He was a defensive line MVP at camp this past summer. 2-time All-State selection for the Polar Bears. So, and there's a lot of there's some tape on him right here that I'm going to watch. So so that's going to be fun. I'll check that out next. It's definitely not Deuce Bigelow. Somebody's funny in the comments. Keep coming back, guys. I appreciate y'all. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one. It's going to be a fun 2025, y'all. If we get that commit, I'll be back on here in a few. Until then, I'll see you on the next one. Have a great one, and I'm out.